I was in New York and I was a Sony college rep, and Dracula 2000 soundtrack was one of the Sony priorities.
Yeah.
And on it was like System of a Down, Saliva, Marilyn Manson. And One Step Closer was on it. And I will never forget, I had the CD in my car, in my CD player.
Yeah.
And that came on, and I literally pulled over. And I was like, what is
that's
this?
Cool. Okay, that is
One
cool.
Step Closer stood out from all the other songs on that soundtrack. And that's when I became obsessed. And specifically, the Shut Up in the bridge, which I think how did that come about? Because I think we talked about that before.
We had written the riff. So Brad wrote the riff when we were just like hanging out, and we were shooting some pictures that we were going to put on, like use on something of ours. But it was like our friend, like with his little snapshot cameras in like Joe's apartment's garage. Okay. So it wasn't at some fan, like we were nobody. And Brad was doodling this like little thing. And I remember him sitting he had a Honda Accord, and he was in the passenger side back seat, just sitting with the door open. And he's like, what do you think of this? I was like, dude, that's incredible. Like, he had a little recorder, and I was like, put it on, make sure you don't lose that. Put it on your little recorder. And then we came back to it, and so he wrote the main riff, and then I wrote the chorus riff based on his riff. And then I think I wrote the bridge riff, but I can't remember if we wrote that together. So there's a possibility it's one or the other. And I did the like tracking of like the sketch out of like, okay, this is how the drums will go, this is how the bass will go, and taught it to the other guys and so on. So fast forward to like being in the studio working on this thing. I remembered like we started working with Don Gilmore, and we got this rapport with him where he was comfortable enough to like send us back to the drawing board on things, and we wouldn't like freak out. And that was a song where he was like, it's gonna be, the track is the best thing about it. Like, keep working on it. And we got really frustrated. Like, he kept sending us back, and he was focused on something else. So he's being very dismissive, and we were getting pissed. And so the lyrics of it are very reactive to how
I say,
like, he was being like a rude, like it was like there was a rudeness in our minds to it. It's just like, fuck that guy. And by the time we nailed the verse and the chorus, he was like, yeah, I think that's right. But what are you going to do in that big part, the bridge? And I remembered sitting in the lounge where we were writing, just separate from the area where they were recording something else. And Chester and I were in the lounge trying to figure this out. And I said to him, what do you think about just saying shut up? And he was like, just saying it? I was like, no, you like scream it, but like just that, like nothing big. I was like, that Rage Against the Machine song where it's like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah.
Like that. And he's like, oh, like that's going to be great. Like he was like, I'm pumped.
That's a great reference. So was it that Rage part that inspired that?
Rage part. I was like, well, that Rage part is so iconic.
So iconic.
And like,
anthemic.
I want to do something like that. Like when we play it at the Roxy, people are going to fucking tear the place apart. And he was like, that's the part. And we both knew immediately that was the best part of the song. It was going to be incredible.
Yeah.
And he had never even, he was screaming on other stuff, but he hadn't done it on that song yet. We told Don, we walked in, we were like, wrap it up. Like this guitar thing you guys are doing, like stop.
Like get ready for this.
Get the mic up. Like you got to hear this thing. And he's like, like he was like still so focused.
Yeah.
And he did what we said, and we put Chester on the mic, and on the very first take it was it was made. I don't know if we kept the very first take, but the very first take was exactly what you feel when you hear the song. And Don like freaked out. He was running around the room. He's like, oh my God. Like everybody knew it was like special.
I have chills.
It was
shut up when I'm talking to you.
It was incredible.
I mean, even on my way here, I put it on the car and here I am doing it. Like literally, that's your Rage Against the Machine moment. And that was I think that's what got me. I think that's what made me pull my car over.
I loved that. I loved the way they did that. And by the way, there were other bands, like I know, like we referenced Deftones and Korn and a lot of other bands that at the time had come out, after Rage. And And there was, I feel like there was a lot of really good references for that type of thing, but we wanted to do, I felt like the Shut Up thing was